To give some context of how good Steve was back then, he led the World University Games in scoring, and the Yugoslavia team was led by Drazen Petrovic. They had Dino Radja, Tony Kukoc. This was an exceptionally high quality team, and Petrovic was second in scoring to Buck. I mean, that kind of tells the story.
I think you can talk about Steve in the NBA, but really what made his career so special was the impact that he had as a player when he came back to Europe. That first year back in Sunderland, where he made waves for, as someone coming from the Lakers back into England. But then those years he spent in mainland Europe, Greece, France, Germany, big time leagues at that day. And Steve Bucknall was one of the stars out there making a real impact.
He's the first player to play in the NBA from Great Britain, but he's also the first player to play abroad as a foreign import player. And pre-Bosman 1996, each team had 2 Americans, 2 import players, and it was very rare to find an import player from a different country other than America. They used to come now and again, but not very often. And Steve was hired at Ludwigsburg, Stuttgart, by Dan Palmer, who used to coach at Crystal Palace and Portsmouth in England. And Palmer's words to me were that the year before, he felt his Americans had been bullied by other Americans playing in the league. They bully them on offense and defense. And he felt if he hired Steve, then he wouldn't get that. He'd get somebody who wouldn't back down to anybody, and Steve wouldn't get bullied. So he hired Steve Bucknall and Joe Moore to play as the import players for Stuttgart, Ludwigsburg. And he took a lot of flack for it, Palmer, when he first hired non-Americans for his import players. But it proved a success. They made the cup final, lost in the cup final over 2 legs by 2 points to Bamberg. And then narrowly got knocked out in the playoffs.
He had many standout games in Europe, and also obviously for the London Towers. I can relate to that a little bit more, because obviously we were able to see him. Regardless of what Americans they had at the time he was playing, he was always one of the top, 2-3 players, including the 2 Americans.
He was just a really dominant player. He was one of those guys who could control a game. A lot of players can take over a game, but he had control of the game in a way that very few can actually do. And second spell back, played for the Towers, it was when they had their 2 years in EuroLeague. He played a season in the EuroLeague, and I think he averaged like 16 points per game in the EuroLeague, which again, you have to be pretty good to be able to do it at that sort of level.